something cows and probably the most lighting I've had in this living room in years. Anyway, hey everybody, what's up? This is Retro Care Reviews in a new location, meaning my living room, because I'm mainly cat sitting, who may or may not be jumping on televisions as of this recording. So yeah, this is my quick retro review before going into seeing Twisters this weekend. And apologies for the hair; it's long overdue for a haircut, so it's gonna be that kind of a busy weekend. But before we get to that, Mouth of Madness, I guess IRL-wise, my overall thoughts with the original movie from '96. Starting off at the top, it is a John DeBont joint, for those who remembered my retro review of Speed 4 years ago with the Real Nerf Bat Family characters. It was actually fun. Not gonna lie, it's more or less... the boss itself in that movie was a character of its own. Same with, I'm assuming, the upcoming sequel and the trucks throughout the Storm Chasers and the main cast. Trying to figure out, IMDb-wise for the new movie if John DeBont has any writing credit or story credit. Nope, doesn't look good. So for the original movie, Bill Paxton was... pretty much a decent character actor, main lead you had for the late 90s. The big star of the show was obviously Helen Hunt, as I think an late 90s Storm Tracker trying to, like, basically still do the business and everything while, going through a divorce. Very 90s with directors of that time. Getting to the point, speaking of character actors, wow, is there a shitload in this movie. The one that struck out for me as a regular I normally see in Always Sunny. I thought for the longest time, I think it was, I thought he was Rickety Cricket. No, it turns out it was one and a half of the Boyles. So again, cast IMDb down below for this movie. Yeah, so obviously, I'm going to keep this as brief as I can. If you haven't seen the movie in almost 30 years, go now while you can. Starting off with most of the cold opening and I think the drive-in sequences that was happening with the opening twisters. Those are the only two scenes I can actually remember from my childhood, if you can honestly believe that. That having been said, I loved the drive-in theater almost action sequence, because the whole thing about, like, the plot of this movie is that essentially it's just two rival, storm chasers, one that's in it for the money, the one that's in it for the science. Paxton's character's or is not mine. But speaking of, for the semi-villain you get in this movie, you get a Dreadpire Roberts, Dr. Gordon of the Room. Yeah, that guy. Long story short, hang on. Carrie Ellis, there we go. I love my brain at a time like this without having to use IMDb on the side as standby. But, yeah, the weird thing about him is that he's technically the villain for this whole thing, just to be like, just getting ahead of, like, not Cat 5, this is hurricane stuff, F5 tornadoes and stuff. The cooldown stuff, the few you get in this movie is, when Helen Hunt's, her team basically goes to her aunt's house for the whole steak and eggs thing. You can definitely tell how, like, lived and how hyped up they are for, like, this kind of, like, field, and, I forgot the lady's name who was from Lost Boys. That was Star. Had a whole, I think it was just like a new agey kind of like therapist thing. Weird tropes of the night, just saying right there in the advance. But, I don't know, just when she dropped, like, oh, what do you guys do when there's like an F5? They all just like dead silence, be like, oh no, that's like the big one. You have to like run your ass off when that one. And you can definitely tell, like I said earlier, with the drive-in theater sequence. Speaking of, I totally forgot that in the background with the movie they were playing was The Shining, and I am very much aware of this week that Shelley Duvall of that movie fame sadly passed away. I only know Shelley, of course, from The Shining, not really much of her work. Right after, I think the only movie I can remember off the top of my head watching as a kid with my family was the Popeye adaptation back in, I think, 81. I could be wrong, but in anything, it's still, a sad day to lose a legend like that, and if anything else. I heard that she had years of diabetes and a lot of health complications as time went on, pre-existing stuff, obviously, so look more into it yourself, but it sounds like she kind of had some peace at the end at the very least, so as much as I would love to do my moment of silence, I would have to get back to the treasure trove that was that drive-in theater sequence. The calm before all of it, before everything got kicked off. The late Philip Seymour Hoffman just getting amped up and, like, usually throughout the movie you would see him amped up in the cool way, like, oh, we're gonna totally track it this time, we're totally gonna track it this time. But here, when it was coming into the theater, where they're on their downtime, it was like, oh no, this shit's real, we gotta like go kind of vibes. And that vibes was very felt throughout the whole sequence. The finale does hold up. You do get, like I said with Speed, you can definitely tell the trucks and like the cars themselves are characters of their own, down to the damage. You kind of feel for that along with the characters. Obviously, DeBon has that kind of style. What's ironic is that this was out in '96, and the disappointing sequel that was Speed 2 Cruise Control was out the following year. Will I ever do a retro review of that for when that turns 25-ish? Maybe. Depends on the year. Depends on probably another Tumblr poll next summer. So, ball in your court there, guys, as far as my subscribers go. So, I'll just wrap this up and say final thoughts. There's a lot to be said that hasn't already been said. I didn't even mention Alan Tudyk and, oh god, so many other character actors. I think, yeah, Sean Wellens, I think I was looking for the loyal thing. Yeah, if you know the like your stars of like character acting in their mid-year careers before the shady lives later on, you can, it's still a fun watch regardless, just playing a game of who's who. But like when you get to the sequences, when you get to like the the Twisters themselves, sorry, Tornadoes in this case, the new sequel just took the name. Getting to the point, there is some datiness with the CG. I've heard the technique for the sequels that they wanted to do the same thing they did here for the original, is just shooting 35mm in film and then blend the CG with it better, with like old school Jurassic Park level kind of splicing when that movie was new at the time. And maybe that might work. Don't know on an IMAX screening, but definitely on a regular theater screening, which I'll probably be seeing later this weekend. I will definitely probably get the feel for it. If anything, at best, the cinematographer is going to probably work their hardest to sell me Glenn Powell post Top Gun Maverick vibes. So that's just going to be my case for that. Ultimately, for the actual original movie itself, if this is your first time watching it, you're not going to be missing much. But however, when you do want to watch it, it is awesome. It is a really good thrill ride of just how intense the tornadoes themselves can be. The aftermath does feel soundstagey at times, I will admit. I don't know how much they shot in location in Oklahoma. So again, go to the Wikipedia for that as well, just to see what was actually filmed on the day there and where it was ended up being a stage set. I want to say maybe the truck Paxton goes through. It could be me tricking myself childhood-wise, thinking it was probably a miniature that eventually got ballooned into like a stunt with miniatures assisting it, kind of like a diopter kind of shot. I could be wrong. Again, I don't know the VFX of that kind of, I guess, extent for the late 90s. So again, correct me in the comments for that, if anyone who's in the story of this movie and probably the upcoming sequel, what they kept from those effects going into that as well. So with that all being said, thank you for watching. I don't really say that much, and I will say that now. Thank you for watching. End card's finally coming up. Since this is really late at night, I don't have time. Probably a short here I probably will do for Laura's reaction for that final trailer for Deadpool Wolverine. The most obvious spoiler was spoiled. So I'll try my best to do in-character thing with her. Other hand here to probably my upcoming review for Twisters. Sure here always to sub to the channel with the notification bell down below. And one quick moment of silence for everyone who did pass in this cast, like of course, obviously Philip Seymour Hoffman and no duh, Bill Paxton. Thank you for watching, and with that all being said, I am Archie Review says that is probably the best timing my cat has ever done jumping on the TV. So with that said, take care, and yeah, Twister man, it holds up. Not all the effects, but definitely worth it on the action alone.